Hey, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite live comic book podcast, X's for Podcast, where we talk about magic, mutants, Marvels, Chronoskimming classics, and more. I'm Nico, and you guys can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at NicoAction. That's NicoAction.
Hey everybody, it's Nathan, and you can find me online at Dazzler AOA. That's like Dazzler in the Age of Apocalypse on mainly Twitter, but all the socials everywhere, whatever, and in the Double R Diner.
And I'm TK. You can find me at XNateXGrayX and doing my last semester at Strange Academy.
Which I can't believe it's like over. We're at like the end of Strange Academy almost, kind of. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about before that. We're here today to talk about like the 7 recent releases from Marvel that you need to check out to have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the Marvel Universe. We're seeing a lot of changeover in the Marvel Universe. It's a really exciting time for just about everything. And I feel like 2022 was the first year that we had like really regular like publication for books. And so I put a challenge to you guys to start things off to kind of like talk about some books from 2022 that you guys think are going to be like a big deal, or at least, you know, like affect the way we look at things, or big writers, however you felt it worked for you, right? That are going to come into play in 2023. And I would love to kick off the show with a look at those, right? So first up, we have TK. And TK, you had said that for 2022, you had a book that you felt was like a biggin.
It's not just that I think it's a big one, it's also that I feel like it might be setting the tone for some stuff that is coming up and some stuff that's going to be important. We know that the Avengers are always going to be really important. We know that the X-Men are always going to be really important. That's kind of like a given. If all of a sudden they were like, yeah, we don't really care what the X-Men are up to, it would be kind of insane to anybody in comic book fandom. But the real question becomes, if we can take those things as a given, what else is there that we think Marvel is going to focus on and sees as a really important avenue for exploration? And there was a particular book that came out this year that really, in conjunction with a bunch of other stuff, really made me think this is an important avenue. And that was Crypt of Shadows.
And I feel like you've got a lot of really good points there with that character roster having had like the biggest year ever for any of those characters.
Yeah. And this has just been a really good year for Marvel horror. And, we're going to talk about Ghost Rider today. Ghost Rider is an incredible horror comic book. I mean, really next level. Ben Percy is an incredible horror writer. And I really feel as though looking at things like the release of Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus this year, Marvel is putting some focus in horror. And I think given that as a genre for them and given the characters that we see in Crypt of Shadows, it really to me felt like, pay attention to this.
I mean, Nathan, you're like the Moon Knight guy.
No,
Where there is moon, you are the night.
Sailor Moon Knight, okay? All right, but I agree. I'm kind of like upset that I didn't pick this as my choice because there's so much horror that's been going on. It's been creeping in a lot. At first time I started noticing it was in a lot of Ben Percy stuff in Wolverine and in X-Force a little bit back. And I do love how Marvel's embracing it, and it speaks to my inner goth core heart. So love it.
Well, I agree with both of you on all of that, and I love all of the characters that we're getting to see have like a really big moment. I feel like some part of me is always like, yes, wolf person. Yes. Yes, I am bear wolf person. Hello. So this big Moon Knight, I can't even. I have to go. Hi. This big like man wolf, werewolf by night, all of like the wolf and wolves having such a big moment has been so exciting. And, it's never a bad thing to talk about giant size man thing.
Curse of the Man Thing was a really fun, unexpected little crossover event from 2021. Nika, we read that fantastic Werewolf by Night Infinity issue that just came out of nowhere. And, we've been reading some other cool Werewolf by Night stuff. It just seems like this is a place where Marvel is definitely putting some time and focus and energy. And I'm really excited for what that could mean for 2023.
Well, and Nathan, I know you had a pick for 2022 that you thought was like a book that okay, so we have the most amazing crew ever, and they are, of course, reacting. And Jake, I can't wait to have you on in just a little bit. But yeah, I did say giant size man thing.
Giant size man thing.
Like Len Wein, I know exactly what I'm doing, right? So, but Nathan, you had an amazing choice for a standout book from 2022 that's definitely a must-see for 2023.
It's a must read. It's a must read. Even without its importance to what's going to be going on, I picked Immortal X-Men. I feel bad. It's a basic choice, but like it's like such a good book.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Oh my god, like Gillen has been sort of like heading big events for the X Office. So like we're going into Sinister, and everything is driven off of what's going on in Immortal X-Men. I can't wait to see how this shapes. I know we've seen confirmation of most of the titles returning after Sins of Sinister. I haven't seen it for Immortal yet, so I'm like, please, 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 please. But if there's one X-Men book from 2022 that I'm going to say you need to read this to understand what's going on, and this is shaping the future of Krakoa and the Marvel Universe, it's definitely Immortal X-Men.
I definitely agree. And I think part of that is because, Marvel adopted this like architect structure. Like, I want to say, like, at the same time, they decided that they could be like this artist who's been working for Marvel for 9 years and has 235 credits under their name at Marvel. They're a young gun. They're one of the new rising class of upstart artists where I'm like, yeah, no, okay, that guy is like literally 15 years older than me. All right, but totally cool. I'm here for it.
Not jaded much, right?
No, not at all. Ugh. But they also brought in that whole idea of like Marvel Architect. And that guy who's like, or I wish there were women, but as far as I know, there has not been a female Marvel Architect yet, which is really, frankly, it's not a statement, it's a damnation. But, beyond that, we see this really cool opportunity for writers to come in and be like, hey, what if I lay the groundwork? Sort of the way TV writers, there's like a head writer. And I feel like, yeah, Gillen really has been, at least from the external, no offense, Senors Dugan and Percy. But, Gillen has been like the guy playing with all the little Lego minifigs.
Yeah, we saw what happened when Percy got a miniseries. It went a bit.
Many, many, many lives of Wolverine were lost that month, and it was a moment. But I myself had a different pick for 2022 book of the book of the book, and for me, I think when I think about a book from 2022 that really kind of popped more than the others, I felt that the Devil's Reign event was so central to the rebuilding of the Marvel Universe. And so Devil's Reign was definitely my pick for number one book of 2022 to shape 2023. And the cover to number one says it all, but in case you needed it, Mark Bagley, who I'm not traditionally a big Mark Bagley fan. I think a lot of Mark Bagley like art kind of looks like there's like an age to a lot of the characters' faces, and that's terrific, but oftentimes they're children. So I don't always think it works, but here it's beautiful. The people are structured and positioned, and let's just focus on Mary and Wilson all the time. They're so fucking great. And I love this miniseries, and I know we talked about bits of it on the network, and I know huge members of the team were big fans, and I just think this is a book to watch for its impact on 2023.
I gotta say, like, there's been so many mentions of this event still. Like, I read it somewhere, like Fantastic Four was talking, they're like, we're still illegal in New York, and like Luke Cage is still the mayor, so like it's really shaped a lot of the things more than a lot of events that we've seen that have been given bigger um promotion status in the Marvel universe. This has actually like had an effect.
And the showdown between Matt, Elektra, and Frank is going to a new place in these next few months. And what'll be really interesting to see is if that is, the resolution of some stuff that was set up in Devil's Reign, or if this is just the next way stop before we build to an even crazier, possible line of storytelling.
And because we are so excited for the future of Marvel and these titles, we're taking a look not just at the books from 2022 that, rang our bells, but we are taking a look at the books from 2023 that have already been solicited that are whetting our whistles. And, TK, I'd like to kick off with your super terrific pick for book to watch in 2023.
I never thought I would be the person picking a spider book, but the fact of the matter is, I have covered hours and hours of one Miss Mayday Parker, and through that have really come to find a love of the spider slice of the Marvel Universe. And so my pick was Marvel Voices Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is not stopping anytime soon. It's taking new forms. We've got new movies coming out. We've got characters like my gorgeous Webulon Weaverberg down there, who I just think is so important, and I'm so excited to see it's Web Weaver. But I think what's going to happen with Spider-Verse stuff is really, we've only scratched the surface so far.
And, Spider-Verse, Spider-Bottom, Spider-Top, whatever you're here
Every
for.
valid.
I would, and Spider non-anal, I'm here
Spider
to...
slide.
Whatever makes you happy. Nathan, what are your thoughts on Spider-Verse voices in 2023?
I'm really interested to see what this is like. I think it's an interesting choice to take the Marvel Voices line and expand it in the way they are with, I know we've got Wakanda Forever solicited in the Spider-Verse one. It definitely looks like we're going to be getting to see some of the voices of a lot of our more diverse members of the team, since it's in a Marvel Voices line. So that's amazing. Anytime we get more diversity, it's great. It's taken me a minute to get on board with the like specific fandoms for Marvel Voices, but I'm down to see what it's gonna be like.
Well, and speaking of representation we need, there just isn't enough representation of lesbians in full-time face masks. And I really feel like that's a market that Marvel is looking to help fix in 2023. I worry, if she's always in the face mask, how will Sarah Paulson fall in love with her? But so anyway, Nathan, you had a pick for book of 2023.
Wait, are you on board with the Sarah Paulson, Holland Taylor?
1,000%. There is just no
Destiny
arguing with
Mystique.
it.
They're Destiny and Mystique.
There's just no arguing with it.
So my pick, I kind of like, I'm really excited about two different books for this year coming up. Both of them are debuting in March. So Hellcat, love Patsy as a character. Love the classic old school Defenders. Really super excited to see what is gonna go on from that. And then Rogue and Gambit, which my favorites, like they are my X-Men couple of choice. Like a lot of people are like Scott and Jean or Scott and Emma. I'm like, no, it's Rogue and Gambit.
And you represent that with that wig, man. You bring that Rogue wig realness.
I should have wore it tonight, but or my other one, got another Rogue.
You're a fancy bitch,
right? She's a little evolution. That's right. The way.
Yeah. Oh, I was about to say, do you think this is going to be like the last Rogue and Gambit series?
I mean, it can't be like the last Rogue and Gambit series because that one made a compelling point as to. Okay, so Are you talking about Mr. and Mrs. X or the miniseries before? Because
Oh, both and or
Okay.
either. Smoosh them together. Give me the
I gotta
feels.
say, like, I think the first mini that had the two of them right before when they got back together, I think they did a great job of like working through issues, setting up a grown-up reason for these two to be back together. I did love Mr. and Mrs. X. So much has come out of that. Like, we can't forget we got baby Xavier out of that. Like, little baby bird egg baby came out of that. So like, if we didn't have that, the Shi'ar would have no Empress right now, or maybe Deathbird. I don't know. But
And then what would Steve Orlando and Teeny Howard even write about?
True. But I feel that Rogan Gambit stuff has done big things before, and I'm looking for something big to come out of this, or just a really good story showing me my favorite couple. I don't know.
I love it. Now, I have a 2023 pick that I think I am also on the shame bus. I guess I'm excited about Summer of Symbiotes.
Okay.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be slimy.
There's a symbiote everywhere, you guys. Every book has
Yeah.
got a spirit of vengeance or a symbiote. It's great.
I mean, like we saw in Timeless, there might be a Nightcrawler symbiote thing. What? Yeah, but no, Steve has been really excited about this, so I'm like all aboard the Summer of Symbiote train.
It's going to be amazing. And, you know, speaking of Steve and getting this party started just right, we're going to be bringing in some amazing voices, including the aforementioned Steve. And we're going to be rolling on forward with some amazing content for the rest of the year with this new amazing format we've been able to adapt to. I'm so excited. I love doing this live show so much. It's so amazing. And so don't forget to like, subscribe, follow xsforpodcast.com. And I think it's time to roll on into some issue coverage. And so without further ado, I would love to welcome none other than the amazing Steve to the show and pass things over to the incredible Nathan.
All right, you got to introduce yourself. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I can't
muted.
hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, wait,
Muted.
I unmute. Oh, wait,
You're muted.
Still muted.
There we
Fixed.
go.
I got it. That's not bad. Yeah. Hello, it's me, Steve. You can find me on Twitter at HowdyDuda. That's HOWDYDUDA. You can find me other places. You can find me on Tumblr. You can find me on Mastodon, I suppose. Hive, if it's still there. I'm on those places. It's good to see you all.
Good to see you too.
We love having you here.
Love being.
So I guess that brings us to Timeless #1, which is kind of strange because we had a Timeless #1 last year, right? It's gonna be it might be historically hard to figure out which one is what. Maybe we should just call this Timeless 2022.
I was kind of surprised they didn't do that.
It should have just been Timeless 2. We got a Crypto Shadows 1 and another Crypto Shadows 1. They're just doing that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this has been a fun ride with this Timeless series. The first one set up Miracle Man's return back into the Marvel universe, back into Marvel publication. I know Nico was super excited to see Miracle Man come back. So like,
Yeah, but I'm a year older, and where the fuck is he? Like,
I know that was what kind of got me going into this. Like, okay, they set up Miracle Man. Yeah, we've gotten some reprints and maybe some like stuff going on with Miracle Man, but we haven't really seen Miracle Man make his mark on the Marvel universe at all, and not really much new stuff. So I was kind of like going into this like, okay, how is this gonna be? But I know that if Jed MacKay is writing a story, I am probably going to be all on board, which I was. So we got Jed MacKay as our writer for this. We got our pencilers Greg Land, Pat Zirchler, and Salvador Larroca, inker Jay Leistein, Pat Zucker, and Salvador Larroca, and colorist Frank D'Amata, and our letterer is Ariana Mayer. I love Ariana. So what were your expectations going into Timeless? What were you hoping to see, and did you get what you wanted out of this issue?
I was hoping for Kang. Oh, Kang? Did someone call? Wait, hold on. There's a bit. It's really cool. Kang. Wait, it's fun. Hold on. Ha ha! Right. So this is our wall of Kang, and this is what I was really excited for.
It's a lot of Kang.
I feel like every time his name comes up, he's gonna pop on screen because I'm so excited about the wall of Kang.
The gloves Kang is really
That's great.
yeah.
Peach Kang, that was awesome. Love it.
I mean, that is kind of the fun thing is like Timeless promises you Kang and it delivers Kang. What else it delivers is a big question mark. But he's right there on the cover. It's timeless, but in fact, there's a lot of time. We're going to go through a lot of time. We don't necessarily know what times. We don't know how they all flow together, but it is not as timeless as the title would lead you to believe. There's quite a bit of it. I think the big thing is that I was expecting a bit of a continuation of what we got last time. Maybe not picking the author up again and being like, write more stories about me. But that, I like the setup for that. I said at the time, like, this feels like the start of their doomsday clock. Like, that Miracle Man reference feels like the little thing that is left that we expand into. And I guess technically it still could be, but we didn't really get any movement on that throughout the year. And this was not movement towards Miracle Man coming into the Marvel Universe. This is movement in a wildly different direction. Not a bad one, but maybe not what I was expecting.
I am so happy personally that we are not moving in any doomsday clock like directions. Nothing in anywhere near adjacent to that. I'm happy about that personally, but I know that Miracle Man means a lot to some members of this podcast. It's not about Miracle Man, it's about Doomsday Clock. I don't want to
Yeah.
So I came into this issue having read the last year's, and so expecting a comic book form solicits for the next year's major events and some Kang thoughts. I got a lot of thinking some Kang thoughts, which to me felt great. I really enjoyed this. I really like Jed McKay's take on Kang, and I really enjoyed it last time. It was great again this time. The story's a little thin. I think it's a setup for what's to come in Jed McKay's Avengers, which I'm very excited for. But the solicits were interesting because a lot of the stuff that showed up in here, unlike last year, was stuff that we totally know what is happening and has already been solicited or built up. Like Red Goblin's not surprising if you read Marvel solicits. That's just
yeah. I mean, the only thing I was kind of like, oh, what's this? It's like Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and
that one. Yeah,
I was like, okay, is that the spirit of variance or the spirit of vengeance?
Ben Percy crossover coming up soon.
I think we're getting spirits of everything. I think this summer is going to be the summer of symbiotes, and then we're going to get like the winter of spirits, and then we're going to get like the fall of shields, and maybe everybody gets a fucking shield, and then before you know it, it's going to be like summer of gauntlets, and everybody gets a gauntlet.
I'm waiting for the spring. I'm waiting for the fall of hammers, and that way, like, right, and then like we got like all the Thor core. Dazzler like pulls the hammer out of her truck. That I don't know the van.
Rain Like Hammers already came out last year, though.
But listen, we can all agree that the most important preview was the return of the Pet Avengers.
Yes.
Wait, and I have seen that already, and I don't know where. I'm like, I already knew the Pet Avengers were going to be a thing again, and I don't know why. I cannot think of where I saw that.
Okay, looking at that, does Nick Fury have a dog?
Yeah, does Nick Fury have a dog? Because the dog with the eye patch is a golden retriever. Who else?
Is that Nick Fury's dog?
I can only dream that it's Nicholas Joseph Fury having a dog.
I mean, that seems to be the indication, but as far as I know, like this might be a new character.
Does anybody know who the person with the star that looks like Nico's chest star on the shoulder is, talking to what looks like an incarcerated Doctor Strange or Tony Stark or Kang or any of the Marvel guys who look exactly like that guy?
Hit me with a page number.
I don't. I have a comic, but it's the first time Kang is called.
Define a page number.
I don't know. But
hold on, I'm looking right now to see if I can get it for you.
we see Tony Stark looking at an empty bottle. We see Beast doing his Weapons of X stuff.
Oh yeah. So it's
The house is on fire. Fall of X, etc.
it's page 16, Nico, in the library version.
Thank you.
That could be Bucky. No,
I thought it was Bucky, but it could also be, I don't know, North Star or Aurora.
yeah.
Yep. I thought it was like Aurora for a minute. Like Steve's like, no.
Yeah, you know what? That's so funny that came up because TK and I were just discussing today how like if you Google Aurora, you're just fucked because there's nothing.
It's so sad. Like you Google, like even somebody, like I was Googling a few obscure characters and like, you know, Akihiro Fang is not that obscure, but I don't think he's a crazy popular character. And just like fan art, every person that's ever drawn him, sexy photo, sexy photo, sexy photo. Aurora, like no matter what the search terms, it's like the 3 same images. Like 2 of them are fan art, 1 of them is from X Factor. That's it. Nothing else. No one
And
cares.
then a helpline.
Oh, and the yellow outfit. The yellow outfit
Writing
with the
Aurora.
scarf.
I wish the yellow outfit. No, it barely came up.
What? Okay, maybe I searched for the yellow outfit because I'm weird.
I dream of the day that people respect the yellow outfit.
The yellow outfit rocked, but I think the weird nun outfit, like around the late, like early hundreds of Alpha Flight, that was amazing.
I just want to ask, did everybody else think that the like best part of this issue was art-wise was the colors? I just
Gorgeous
thought
colors.
the colors were like for me visually the best part, especially later on in the issue, like page 31 and on with all of the sort of color gradient work. Well, normally I think color gradient work can come off a little not perfect, if not perfect. I thought this really had a lot of personality. I was really excited by the color more than some of the line art.
Yeah, Dermota did a really good job. I really appreciated that. Greg Land knocking out of the park.
Right.
That's
Surprisingly.
for my money, and that's not something I say often.
But do you know who wants to say hi real quick? Kang! Oh, wait, no. There he is.
Yang! Hi, King!
Sorry, I just love this wall of Kang so much. I want to cuddle it.
The Wall
It's
of
really
King is
good.
great.
It's
The wall.
really
All credit
Symbolic.
to Kevo.
How would a Wall of King cuddle feel like, though? Would it be like all of time cuddling you at once? Or like.
Oh.
It'd be very sharp.
Ooh, that sounds sexy. And this
So-
music is making it so sexy.
Yeah.
So.
I gotta ask, especially to you, Nico, but to everybody, how did we feel about Merlin and Arthur and all of that stuff being used outside of Otherworld and Otherworldian feats and classic Excalibur lore?
I say thank God. I'm so tired of the Otherworld version of Merlin and the Otherworld version of
He's he's the worst.
Yeah, it's good to see a techno dystopian Merlin and his Twilight Court roundtable. It was fun.
I completely agree. And you know what? Like, for the other half of that, for my money, like, Jed MacKay, I think, is someone who, while the only thing I wish is that I had a little bit more, like, strong women from Jed sometimes. He does write just, like, a lot of very male-heavy books, which is kind of the nature of the assignments he's given. He's given a lot of assignments that time with major film and TV products. So I understand that he's writing the hand he's given, and I'm a little disappointed that his Avengers run is, like, 2 women, but, you know, maybe they'll wind up being, like, 6 women on it, and we just don't know yet. It's hard to judge from a first cover. But, you know, one thing that I do really love about Jed MacKay is his embracing of things that aren't necessarily his. And I feel like his love of pantheons and his love of other people outside of his world that fit in his worldview, he's really expressive about inclusion. And so it was interesting seeing him after all of his work on Strange with Gods and all of his work with Moon Knight on Gods, work with someone that, you know, it's sort of like a magical pantheon that we think is kind of maybe for the fact of its whiteness, very mundane. And I just thought it was really fun to see a treatment of characters that I'm usually a little eye roll about from somebody that handles characters that the treatment of usually causes an eye roll so well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, giving me like a warlock Green Knight is pretty fucking rad. Way to go, Jed.
Amazing. Lancelot was like
Good shit.
so amazing, kick ass.
It's a really interesting group. I have a lot of questions, which is obviously the point. But I certainly am happy to be moving away from otherworld Arthurian connections.
Yeah.
I guess it just feels like these could have just been new characters. Like I didn't necessarily need for them to be derived from Arthurian legend, and if that is part of it, then my question immediately becomes: okay, do they have a connection to the otherworld people? Like, should we expect that down the line? I feel like it's always going to be kind of difficult to disassociate the two. So eventually that story's going to have to come. And, the character designs are all really cool. Galhout with the mohawk is just the most gorgeous creature. But, given what happened with Miracle Man, I'm like, did you just entice me with something that I have so many questions about that I'm not going to see anything from them for a year plus now?
So, I mean, it's always interesting when somebody pulls in Arthurian stuff, but I personally, I see this as making a lot of sense because these things are like, it's Kang's shit, right? Like Kang's all about that, like Alexander the Great. He's all about Shakespearean language. He's all about Arthurian stuff. He's a knight. He refers to his battle armor as raiment, like all the
Big
time.
white legacy stuff.
Yeah. That's his thing. Like he sees himself as a knight, and that leads me into my next point, which is we all know who Murthan is, right? Like, do we need to say it out loud on the pod?
You're thinking it's Kang, right?
It's Kang. I'm sorry, it's Kang, right? Like, if I'm wrong, that's fine, but it's a Kang story. It starts off with him being like, who could have burned down this, like, planet of Alexandria? I was like, it's Kang.
And it makes sense that it would be him, too, with especially since he's got an ebony blade from the future that, like, hello, what is that connected to? Arthurian legend and lore. So, like...
Yeah, and he's a metal mask-wearing time traveler, with, like, his team of heroes that Kang always needs to assemble to get a job done. Kang's like, I need to get a team of heroes, and then literally Merlin comes in and is doing exactly what Kang's plan was, and I'm like, oh, it's Kang.
Well, speaking of doing exactly someone else's plan, I've seen this chessboard, motherfuckers, and the last time I saw this chessboard, it was with a sassy man named Mephisto. And so I'm like, talk about using someone's exact plan. The last time I saw this chessboard was in Jason Aaron's Avengers, and I'm like, who are all these chess pieces? And then I'm like, one of them looks a lot like Sinister from the back.
Yeah, that's
Then
Mr.
I'm
Sinister.
like, yeah, these chess pieces, one of them looks like Doom. You know how I can tell? The chess plate boobies. Because when they are not rendered right, they just look like giant areolas. It's just too much to handle. But they look great here. And so then...
Ultron.
And then...
And Baron Mordo.
Baron Mordo.
That's Mordo, who we're seeing from behind, we think?
I believe so. He's got the same things on his shoulder.
Because I wasn't sure if it was like Dracula. And it was...
I had to look him up.
Yeah.
Because, like, with Drac having, like... I wonder if they're just done with vampires then. Like, I'm really curious about who the power players are going to be in this, because that last page doesn't give me any indication. It says all of, like you said, the crossovers we already knew were coming.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hope it is Mephisto. Can you imagine if Jed McKay makes the big villain of his Avengers run Mephisto? Personally, but it would be really funny.
I would love it. I wouldn't think it's disrespectful of Jason Aaron at all. Jason Aaron's like, there's 616 Mephistos. Who gives a shit?
I don't think that would be disrespectful.
And we have no idea how this Avengers run is going. I mean, it could end with Mephisto being like, you got me this time, but I will literally be right back. And then we just go into Jed McKay's run.
You'd be like, you got me now, but I'm already here again.
It's
Exactly.
technically Satan,
I know you already beat me in Jason Aaron's Thor, and I know you already beat me in Damnation, but beat me again. Why don't
Yeah, I'm going to keep coming back.
you? 4 times in a row.
Why not?
So great. We already talked about the chess pieces. Was one of the things I definitely want to make sure we talked about. But what do we think about the future glimpses that we got to see? Are there anything that you are excited for that you didn't already know about? Like, I already knew about the Brood Carol Danvers thing, so that's actually already going on in her title right now. And then I thought it was just Miles Morales, and then when Steve was like, "No, that's got Nightcrawler hands and feet," I was like, "What?" So that I'm excited for.
Maybe.
That's that character is on one of the covers of one of the Sins of Sinister storylines.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah,
Wait.
that's on the cover. That's the variant
Yeah, on
cover
the
of
Nightcrawlers?
the Nightcrawlers story.
Oh.
That's from that. So,
Oh my god!
yeah, there's a really beautiful variant of Nightcrawler Spidey on the cover that I shared with Jonah. He's like 2 favorite characters at Marvel. So like that is so designed for him. I just keep hoping that giant bird is literally Mystique Phoenix. It's gotta be.
The crow with the metal hands and the 4 eyes.
Yes. I think it's just gotta be Mystique Phoenix from Avengers, because who the hell else is a giant bird?
The
Raven
reveal that she
Darkholme.
was Dark Phoenix was like, oh, that was so good. But yeah, I didn't even think of that. But that's who it's got to be, because she lives in a world of anamorphic animals, however you say that, and animal people. Like the
Yeah.
Hellfire people were pigs. So
Yeah, they were literal pigs, and they were like, it was, there were some caricatures that were perhaps, as TK pointed out, better left not addressed.
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's just pray they never come back.
Also, I really desperately hunger for this incredible Logan Wolverine hybrid. Logan Wolverine, good night. Ghost Rider Wolverine hybrid. I am very excited about that. I am very frustrated that it looks like, is that someone from X-Force getting an egg?
That's happening.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's another one that, it's also the one with Black Panther and Namor. Listen, like 2 characters I absolutely love. They had a really bad fight in Avengers versus X-Men, and I just feel like ever since then, the only thing they can talk about is how they are mad at each other about that fight. Which, like, compared, Cyclops killed Professor Xavier, and they're just like, we can move past this plot beat. Like, it's not especially compelling one way or the other to see them working together or fighting at this point. It's been years. So much stuff has happened with Phoenix stuff. I truly don't care anymore. And I'm hoping whatever this is can move them to a place where they never have to be like, I hate you, but I'm reluctantly working with you. I respect you. It's just like, I don't need it.
Yeah. To be fair, they're mad about stuff that happened in Infinity as well. And
Yeah.
Secret Wars.
T'Challa's just mad because that's Namor's the reason why Storm and him got divorced. I mean,
and
really.
you drowned Wakanda.
Maybe perhaps there was a little bit of genocide, maybe perhaps a little bit,
Drowned
maybe just a little.
And then they destroyed Atlantis. It was a whole thing. But
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was like a.
But
real
them working
thing.
together is not a surprise, because you could see that in like any page of any pretty recent
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And in there was the page of like the Bishop's War College, which I was like, okay, but we've already like had solicits for that.
And
for
it
a
doesn't
month.
show any of the surprise new mutants. It just shows Armor and Surge, the 2 we already know.
Yeah.
Which, I think the big magic of like a, ooh, what's coming preview issue is it gets you excited. And when you're just like, hey guys, we're going to sell you a copy of the May solicits instead of letting you pick it up free from the counter, you can dress it up with great writers and great artists. But I'm still going to think this was a B+ trailer.
Yeah.
That ran for 48 pages. It's a B+ trailer. I love it. The use of a dramatic song from the 90s redone in a very dark, atmospheric way by a deep-voiced woman who's relying on the bass to sell the entire song is terrific here. But it is 48 pages of that.
Yep.
And unfortunately, some of the like beats that we get of things that we haven't seen, for instance, just the Council of Beasts, that's not like visually. It's really unfortunate because it is literally just the same beast copy pasted, and also like not a character who is, I think, exciting to. I think everybody we're a little like we went past the time to see Beast get his comeuppance. And now we're like, kind of has to happen, and then we got to move on because it's just been 36 plus issues. getting anywhere near it. So like,
It's not even fun anymore.
yeah, exactly. It stopped being fun, and like, you know, Tony Stark near a bottle always bums me out. I don't think we should ever be doing that story.
Oh, seriously. I don't
So
know.
I don't know.
He's struggling with addiction right now, but I honestly don't want to see him go back to drinking. Like,
No, that's been
he
played
can
out.
be addicted to pain pills, and that sucks too. That sucks in a different way, but it's not such a crushing defeat as like the demon in the bottle coming back.
And it's just if the wrong people touch it, it starts to get really,
Yeah.
I mean, at best, let's say inappropriate. You know, we're still waiting to see how this Sage alcoholism story, you know, again, talking about X-Force, waiting to see how that pans out. But like, it definitely needs to have said some things in the next couple of issues. Otherwise, it's really problematic. That's why I'm just like, you know, yeah, you can be addicted to other things. Like, you can be addicted to superhero things. Be addicted to like needing the praise of saving the world, and like, you can do the stories metaphorically, and I will love them. But like, when it's actual alcoholism, you need to really sell it, or it's a big problem.
Yeah.
It feels. Oh, please, by all means.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's unfortunate that Tony always keeps going back to it, because that was a big part of Carol's story for a while, but they don't bring that back. Thankfully, they don't bring that back in the same way that they do with Tony all the time.
I'm just glad that it looks like perhaps Sage will have some follow with this. Like, it looks like this isn't done per se, because otherwise, if it's done, then it seems like she fixed it all by listening to the Joe Cocker cover of Get By With a Little Help From My Friends. And I just don't feel like that can possibly be how we address the first alcoholic woman in the X-Men.
Yep.
Is she the first though, or is that Boom Boom?
I feel like Boom Boom's is treated as such a joke, and
You're right.
well, you know, Siren definitely
Siren,
had product alcohol.
There you go.
But Boom Boom's is such a joke; it depowers the ability to talk about it.
Yeah.
True.
True. In a, you know, the joke of it is actually important to discuss as well. The dangers of being a functioning alcoholic and the people who have to let it go because otherwise they have to stop you from living. Like, it's a painful thing to have to see someone live like that, and that's an equally important thing to say. And I am, of course, not. Yeah, well, that's how we got here, Chamber, talking about Sage. So, you know, absolutely.
So let's switch over to another Jed McKay book, since we got the same crew for it. So let's talk about Strange #9. All right. So Steve's been on a lot of the recordings with me. I know their thoughts on this. Where have the two of you been with the series so far? And Steve, I want you to chime in with any extra thoughts you might have on it as well.
This is such a tough one, and especially now, because we know that it's ending very soon and we're getting another Strange book, and you know, it really looks like Steve is coming back in his standard form. So at this point, it's just like, let's just wrap this up so we can find out what's happening. And I don't want that for Clea. Like, she is a really cool character, and you know, I think there are certain beats about her that McKay just nails. There are other ones that maybe I don't love as much, but that's okay. I can focus on the ones I really do like. We're back to these editorial problems of like, if the mini is too mini, if you telegraph too soon why it's mini, like, you know, it just doesn't do justice to the character that has to unfortunately be in this kind of stand-in role.
I got to real quick before we move on, just say Jed McKay, obviously the writer for Strange #9. Our penciler is Marcelo Ferreira. Roberto Poggi is our inker. Our colorist is Yava Chavaya, and Corey Petit is our letterer.
I really, you know, I feel like I dropped off this book a few times, and I kept bringing myself back to it every time. And the big, I want to say even the problem I had, because I don't want to say I had a problem. The main reaction I've had is that I feel like in many times they don't give Clea perhaps the space to be the same character that they give, I don't want to just say men to be, but like, I feel like I got more out of Jane per se than I got out of Clea. And it's not even, I think, Jed McKay doing something wrong. I think it's that oftentimes Jed McKay was forced to take a character right at the point at which they were transforming for the Marvel universe. And hold on, I was trying to do a bit and now it's not loading, and so my bit isn't working. Oh, bit, you fail me. But so it's, it's this timing of the cinematic replacement, essentially. Not that I think that, they're necessarily getting rid of who we knew Clea to be, but they're making room for Clea by Charlize Theron. And with that in mind, they're not really looking for old Clea per se. They're looking for new Clea. And with, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. That's probably my biggest problem with this arc in the story is it's a new Clea. It's not the same one. It's like Clea from like the it's not even maybe a new Clea, but it's like Clea from the 70s and not Clea from the like 2000s to the 2010s, because they've obviously seen each other as divorced and maybe not always the best terms, but just this whole Clea is pining after Strange, and Strange in this issue is a harvest man saying like, "Oh my love, and you're still my wife," and all of this stuff. It just seems like you're saying, Nico, it's aiming for something different completely.
Yeah, I've gone on record about a lot of this series so far, every other issue, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I have not enjoyed most of the series very much. I'm not a fan of the art. It doesn't bring me the joy that other series have in the Strange universe. The thing that I really wanted, or the thing that I thought I was going to get out of a series called Strange starring Clea, was finally getting a look at the character of Clea outside of her relationship to Doctor Strange, and seeing like who is she as a woman when she's not just Doctor Strange's hot wife from another dimension. Who is she when she's not Dormammu's niece or Umar's daughter? Who is Clea on her own outside of the Stephen Strange stuff? And because this is a 10-issue series that links the death of Doctor Strange to a new Doctor Strange comic, and because this has to do the work of getting us from one to the other, and because it's about his wife, or his ex-wife, really, his very ex-wife, every issue is just, to me, when I look back at it, it's just a lot of Clea thinking about, talking about, and acting about Stephen Strange.
She doesn't pass the Bechdel test even to herself.
Yeah, it's her thinking possessively about him, talking possessively about him, pining after him, longing for him, remembering him, and that all makes sense for a character who has just died and who ostensibly she is romantically entangled with. I have my issues with that. And it makes sense for setting up a series in which they'll probably co-lead, is my thinking to some extent. But it didn't give me what I wanted. It didn't give me what I expected, and it didn't give me what I think the series needed to give for it to be a Clea solo series. So I found this run very unsatisfying, as much as like a lot of the stuff that happens in this issue is really interesting. It sets up high stakes. The colors are great. Honestly, my favorite part about this issue is I think the dialogue is really romantic, even if I don't necessarily feel like I buy that or believe it for these two characters at this point in their lives and relationships. I do think it's really romantically written, and I did really like the "For Your Eyes Only" Director Nunn shot. That is phenomenal. That's legendary.
I also thought the lettering was great on this issue. Strange has had great lettering.
Absolutely.
And to your point about like it's not Clea's book, well, you know what? I guess they never lied to us. It was never called Clea Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. It was called Strange. And I guess fools us for thinking a book called Strange with a woman who could theoretically be named Strange on the cover would be about the woman on the cover. In many ways, I guess this was a boat show, and Clea was here to sell me a boat. But, I guess I would have been fine with this whole thing if this had been a 24-issue book called Strange, and it had been about stranges. And like we've said this before, but like the Wongification of this book being one of the best parts when this was Clea's book is just disappointing for Clea. Not for us as readers who love Wong. It's disappointing for us as readers who love Clea.
I also think
That
it could have been like maybe a really good Infinity comic because like Steve, I totally agree with you. Like this is the beats that this hits are kind of like, oh, you've never heard of Clea before? Let me tell you all the things about her. Her mom shows up, and that's fine. That's really cool. Like hopefully this gets a whole new group of people into her. But there are readers who have been pretty invested in the character for a while for whom like her mom showing up for dinner is not the story. That's like a very
Just her about Steven.
right, exactly. It's very like Clea 101, you know, the beat that she is a like fierce lover of the people in her life, that she loves her husband, that she feels a kind of possessiveness that like I feel like is a very male author thinking that's empowering for a woman to be like, that's my husband, whatever. Like that's still a character beat, but it is a really basic early one that if you have been, you know, investing in the character for a long time, you maybe think those are not the stories that I need right now. Maybe save those for the free comics that you recommend to people who have never seen the character before so that they don't have to. And Kang, yeah. Maybe they could hang out.
Yeah, Clea and Kang hanging out, that would be amazing. I think for me, I think it's a well-constructed story, and it's very much a Jed McKay story, but it's a story. I just don't like the beats it's doing. So I'm not like trying to. I don't want to like shit on the creative team at all. It's not a story for me as somebody who I had a mad appreciation for Clea. I didn't know much about her, but like every time I saw her appear, I was like, oh my god, she's so cool, she's so goofy. Like, look at her outfit, like it's fabulous. Like she has like Polaris pants, but like, you know, like I do think it's strange that the best issue to me so far had been the dinner with Umar, which, like you said, TK, is very like Cleo 101 kind of stuff. And I think it's probably a good thing to introduce Clea to everybody else. I hope from the banter they had together, that was some really cute banter. I love how Jed McKay was like, I'm gonna name drop Moon Knight like 3 times in this issue.
I'm just surprised Black Cat wasn't there.
Right.
Who was a what? Is the best line in this comic.
Yeah. Like there's some great things about this comic. It's just I don't. The story it's telling is not for me, and I'm loving a lot of it, and I love Jed McKay's work. He's probably like one of my favorite writers in Marvel right now. Like probably like Al Ewing, Jed McKay, Gillen are in a race, and it just depends on what was the last thing I read from them to see who I like more at the moment. But it's just not doing it for me. But there are some interesting uses of Revenant throughout the series. We had a big surprise reveal for the Revenant that they're going to fight for the last issue, which is Sentry. Is anybody excited to see Sentry back?
No, because he died in something that had nothing to do with this, where he had a really heroic arc that was really lovely, and he was like part of the Valkyrie Guard of the Dead.
What are you talking about? What comic did he die in that you're talking about?
That is King of Black.
I saw him die was in King in Black.
But that was the King in Black Return of the Valkyrie stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Well, he dies in King of Black.
Or the Mighty Valkyries.
And then he's in Mighty Valkyries after his death in King in Black, where he has this big heroic redemption, and it's just like he was literally with the Valkyries the last we saw him. The fuck.
Well, he still is. His body is possessed by a million insane ghosts. So that's honestly that's high stakes. They got me with that last page. I don't care when I see the Sentry. I'm really turned off by the Sentry most of the time these days. I thought the best thing that Donny Cates could do with him was kill him. And honestly, like seeing him in this, I was like, all right, these are huge stakes. What do you fucking do with a guy with the power of a million exploding suns full of a million insane ghosts? That's scary. I mean, it's almost like the Void.
Yeah.
The only problem is we've got one issue left.
We only got one issue left.
We're definitely solving this, or ending. Even if we don't solve it, we're ending it in the capacity that it's not like. You're right. That setup is really good, and if I didn't know this was ending, or if I knew seeing this like there's something coming up in like the next 3 months that this could be attached to, such that the threat could continue.
Yeah,
Even if this book was ending, it would be like, oh, this is going to be a crazy thing. But I feel like Steven's just going to be like, oh, that's funny because I'm the Sorcerer Supreme of Death. So yoink, you're fine now.
Yeah, they're gonna have to have a big punch out fight like they have in every issue of this book. And and then, the most interesting stuff in here is the Blasphemy Cartel stuff and the Pandora Peter stuff with Wand and Director None. And I feel like we've gotten so perishingly little of that they better be a big part of Strange coming up, or Doctor Strange, I should say. Because if they're not, like, what was all this for? Because there's this interesting stuff that never gets explored in the series, really.
Agreed. All right, so as we are wrapping up coverage of Strange number 9, the penultimate issue of Strange, what are y'all final thoughts? I'm just gonna say, I'm obviously sticking with it. I've already bought issue 10. I just haven't read it yet, because I didn't want to cover it I didn't want to read it until we covered it, so I didn't want to like have those thoughts in my head. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to what's gonna come from it. I do trust Jed McKay as a writer. And yeah, I'm not that interested in Sentry. I hope his body just like disintegrates again.
I'm just excited to see this season of Strange wrap up and roll into the new one. Like, I'm ready for the clean break. Yeah. I want more Blasphemy Cartel. I completely agree, but I don't need to come back to this arc to get there.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the death of Doctor Strange, we were leading up to this. So, I'm ready to be done. And sometimes we can just all accept that, like, even though Steven has to come back to life and be Doctor Strange for Marvel Comics to function, maybe that's a way in which, if we just get back to that baseline, Clea can be her own character, distinct from Strange. And for some people it's always going to be all about Steven, but for a lot of us, we could view Clea in another light with Steven alive.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This is going to sound so terrible, but I'm going to be so happy to be free of this series. Readers, listeners, audience, if you don't like a comic book series, you can stop paying for it. You can stop buying it. I had to cover it, so I did get all the issues in it.
Same.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be free of the series. I'm looking forward to the new Doctor Strange series. I hope Clea is a big part of it herself, and I hope she gets more space to breathe in it. I am going to go read number 10 because I do have it here.
Well, Steve, where can everybody find you? Since I believe this is the end of your time with us this week, until I'm sure you're with us next episode. I can't imagine an episode of X's for Podcast Live without you.
Yes, well, you can find me in most swamps, bogs, fens, and marshes. Usually, if you look under a rock that's deep enough in the ground, rub your hands at the bottom of it over a wide sieve, and you'll find me regularly there. You can also find me on Twitter at HowdyDuda, that's HOWDYDUDA, and at other social media sites.
Well, amazing. We will be back after this short commercial break, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all of our amazing hosts online. And we'll see you after this short break.
Come find
my Ten of Swords poster.
I am Nico, the world's amazing dumbest boy, and it is. I'm looking over my notes, and I see that Nathan, you just rolled with the punches better than anyone's ever rolled
I
with
did.
the punches.
I was going to send you a message. I was like, oh, I am so not prepared to do this.
I had the wrong note down on my paper, and I had it that. Oh man, I have bad fruit punch mouth right now. I had it that Nathan was leading Timeless, and he just fucking rolled with it, even though it was supposed to be me. Thank you so much, man. But I do believe you are leading us and two amazing new voices in a new segment.
Seamless job on that lead, Nathan. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
watched the whole thing. I would never have known. Would never have known that you just rolled with it.
Oh, please.
Fantastic.
I mean, there's been times we've been like, before the episode, like, hey, you want to lead this? You want to lead this? So you got to be prepared for everything. So we got two new voices. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Tori. You can find me on Twitter at Tori_Sheehan and on Instagram at SMTori. That's Tori with an I.
And I'm Jake. You can find me on Twitter at Omega Sentinel or Oh Me Gas Sentinel or Oh Mega Sentinel. Or on Instagram at The Heart Farmer, as in a farmer who farms hearts.
I always love listening to you talk about being a heart farmer. It's like
Bloody
great.
work.
Oh no! I'm thinking they're like little Zelda hearts, but they're like actual like bloody hearts. Oh my god!
Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
mess. The fields are red with blood.
Like my fruit punch mouth.
Oh, no!
You look like a vampire from the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
All right, so
Clap.
we are all gathered here to talk about a character near and dear to my heart, Monica Rambeau. Photon also has been known as Spectrum, and I'm like Joyce. She'll always be my Captain Marvel. So I gotta ask before we get into this beautiful, wonderful issue, written by Eve Ewing, pencils by Luca Marseca, Ivan Fiorelli, inkers Luca Marseca and Ivan Fiorelli, colorist Carlos Lopez, and letterer Crichton Cowell. So before we get into this issue, what is your relationship with the Monica Rambeau?
Secret Wars, baby. Oh,
Sorry, I thought we were going in order.
sorry.
I don't think I have a particularly special one. Like, she's just an awesome character. And she's been in plenty of stuff that I have loved, but like, you know, I was really trying to think when I read this, like, do I have an iconic Monica Rambeau story or book? And, you know, I don't think I do. I mean, I think I love them all equally. Like, it sounds like I'm saying like, oh, there's nothing that special about her, but it's just like all good.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I completely am with you on that. Like, my relationship with Monica is one of like mostly osmosis. Initially, a lot of my relationship with Monica was through trading cards, and you know, like learning who she was through like getting books that would have all of the Avengers on the cover, and there would be this amazing woman in what looked like a dance unitard.
They all did.
They all did, and like,
But with wings.
with wings, and like there was something so amazing about her big, beautiful, natural black hair that like, you know, as anybody who's ever felt different, you can often find connection in someone else who presents as different. And I make a joke about it a lot, but I really did have very Cuban Greek thick curly hair as a Cuban Greek boy. And so like, you know, when it all fell out in a lot of ways, I was really relieved because it meant no more relaxer on my terrible hair. So, but seeing someone so proud of their natural hair and so beautiful, like I became like the Wizard magazine fan of her. And like, was there a wizard she was in? I had it. And like, other than that, she just didn't get the kind of play she deserved when we were growing up. So she's somebody that I've had to come to love as an adult.
Well, she's just, you know, Tiona Paris for me, so I only know her from the movie shows.
True.
That's a great version, though.
A WandaVision. That's beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's she's I'm really enjoying her MCU appearances, but for me, Secret Wars was my original sort of my introduction to Captain Marvel, because to me she will always be Captain Marvel first and foremost, because she was my first Captain Marvel, and she was like zipping around fast as the speed of light, like phasing through stuff, being energy, being an awesome woman with a really great afro, and eventually like leading the Avengers, though I didn't read any of that era of the Avengers. I heard tell, I heard rumor, I heard story of the fabled time when Captain Marvel led the Avengers and was constantly challenged in her leadership, because that's what happens when you're an awesome, powerful Black woman in charge, is you're constantly challenged by inferior people who don't deserve the leadership role, like Dr. Druid. So yes, Secret Wars, seeing how badass and powerful she was, kind of, yeah, she was a Marvel character who lived in the background for far too long. I remember seeing her on that 90s, like every Marvel superhero ever picture that would sometimes appear, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember her from Secret Wars, that's Captain Marvel. And seeing her come back around really in the Ultimates, and yeah, getting to appreciate her as an adult and see her as this kind of like professional superhero who's been doing it with a lot of different teams, who really knows the ins and outs of her power, who's had some really interesting friendships, connections, relationships in the world of superheroes. Getting to see this sort of fully rounded character really take star of her own book has been so fun and so rewarding.
I personally must have the most experience with her. I in the reading comics in the 90s, as a kid, you're living off of allowance, so you're going to like the 50-cent bins at the comic book stores, and you're buying comics and you're learning about comics. Then there were a lot of those 80s Avengers comics in the 50-cent bins at that time.
Oh, were there ever?
Right? It was like Avengers was it was really weird and goofy at the time. It just went from Jan being the leader, who her run was interrupted by Vision when he took over the world's computers, and then she left, and then they're like, hey, cool, Monica, why don't you be the leader? And she's like, oh my god, sure, I'll do it, why not? But I love that her story was, she went from, I think it's one of the better Avengers stories. I think the only one who has a little bit better of a Avengers story is Rogue, because Monica went from being the trainee of the team. She was introduced as just a trainee. She wasn't even a full-fledged member. And within about 50 issues, she became the leader. She really grew as a hero, grew in her strengths as a character before Marina sidetracked her career. I mean, the Leviathan, but Marina.
It's the most consequential member of Alpha Flight has ever had.
Hey, no, there was the Collective man that got some Alpha Flight related crap or whatever. There was that guy. What was the Collective, right? That when Bendis did that thing that time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, when they everybody died, and then they went into
that guy from Canada or whatever.
What was he? Weapon? Was he Weapon Omega? Is that what he was?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
You guys could literally be
Mimic's
describing
boyfriend
every issue, and I'd just be like, oh yeah, that one.
That guy and Mimic had a very interesting relationship.
But yeah,
they sure did.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, Monica was definitely a character who, for the longest time after her unceremoniously being kicked off the team and Dr. Druid taking over with this weird Nebula or Ravana, I don't know, girlfriend that he had at the time, she kind of faded back into obscurity, and she got picked up in the 90s during some like the Operation Galactic Storm, but never really was featured as much as she should have been. I do think Al Ewing has a big love of the character, so when he brought her back in Ultimates, I think that was a really good modern day jumping point for the character, and we get to see a lot of the growth that has been there. Kelly Thompson loves the character because she's so connected to Carol, because they were both Captain Marvel, so she's been showing up a lot there too. So she's really had a renaissance being in the Thunderbolts too. This is the first time we've gotten a series under her name, although she did get a one-shot as Captain Marvel in the 90s, I believe. But it's huge. It's a huge day for any Monica Rambeau fans, which surprisingly on Twitter there are a pantheon of them not unsurprisingly, there's a pantheon of Monica Rambeau fans out there, and more people wanting to see her being used more often. So it's amazing that we get to see this. I think for me, this issue was a good jumping on point for characters who aren't as familiar with the character themselves. I do love the character of Joyce that we saw, the older lady who was like, "Oh my God, I love you. I have like," and I was like, "Oh, why is she me?" Like that's if I ever met Monica Rambeau, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I have all of your like newspaper clippings and like you'll always be my Captain Marvel."
I have all your Wizard magazines. It was so much charm. Like, it was like exciting to love Monica. You know what I mean? Like, you were in the book loving Monica with these characters. There was like, I don't want to say folksy charm, because it wasn't about Monica having the charm. The book had the charm. It was like you got to be part of this moment that was Monica's moment that she's been waiting to have for goddamn ever.
Yeah, she's such a fixture in the community that to finally get the opportunity to step up and have her story told, there have just been people waiting for this in such a big way. And it's, it's easy to see how this would be the year for it, since her character is going to be front and center in the Marvels movie in June, I want to say. So much so, the influence of that they actually changed her name back from Spectrum to Photon for the synergy of the film, according to e-viewing.
I've literally developed dyslexia from trying to follow her name changes. The letters are just spinning in front of me. I'm so frustrated.
So here's a couple things that I learned about Monica Rambeau's superhero names while reading this book. One, she has had her name taken twice by Genius Bell. First, She gave Captain Marvel to him, being magnanimous. Then, when he was like, "I'm done with that name, I'll be Photon," she was like, okay. And then she became Spectrum. And then she got to be Spectrum until Marvel Disney said, "Hey, let's make her Photon again because of the movies." So, yes, there's a little whiplash here, but it seems like we've settled on a name, we've settled on a look, a color palette. We remain with the color palette. It's a good time to be Monica Rambeau.
It's a good time to be Monica Rambeau. I gotta say, out of all the characters that I've gotten to see the positive fallout or positive effects of having been in one of the MCU properties, I'm really glad that Monica Rambeau is getting the spotlight. And I was begging for the series when WandaVision was coming out. I was like, why is Monica not in anything right now? But we're getting it now, so it's a great lead-in to the Marvels movie, which is going to be fantastic. And I mean, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic because it's got 3 characters that I love so much in it.
Is this going to be an actual lead-in? Like everything that's in here will help for the movie, or?
I think it's more that for fans of the movie, this comic is accessible because, like, it's not. Actually, what's really interesting about it is it doesn't require that you know a lot about Monica's background, but there are a lot of editor's notes. Like, they really want to remind you that, like, if you wanted to dive in, Monica's very connected to events that are happening in the Marvel Universe, and you could go read these issues and kind of get into it. But I think this is more for people who are like, I recognize this character from WandaVision, I recognize this character from Marvels, I want to know what she's up to. This is a really good jumping on point. And I think, what is tough about a jumping on point is sometimes it gets a little bit reductive and a little bit, we were talking about this with Doctor Strange, which is actually not at a jumping on point, it's at a jumping off point. But throughout not Doctor Strange, just Strange. Strange throughout the title has been a little bit like, there she is.
Nuclear Strange.
It's been a little bit like, Clea, she's this kind of person. Like, it's just been the Clea 101 beats. And what is so fantastic about Monica Rambeau Photon is it really isn't trying to do that. It is simplifying, and it is telling a story that doesn't require loads of lore knowledge, but it is not being reductive, and it's not being kind of like, let me retell the same stories over and over again.
Yeah, and there was some really clever things it did. Like, it sort of reminded us of her first appearance a little bit by Spider-Man's appearance in this issue, but it didn't like heavily go like, oh my god, yeah, I was there when you got your powers. Like, it was a nice nod to it, but it didn't like slap me in the face with it.
You do spider things. I am also Photon with powers of light. Look at me, Marvel, Captain Powers. Like, it did such a better job with dialogue than that.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like so many jumping on points are sort of, I don't know, somewhere between Muppet Babies and a Home Depot instruction manual in terms of how repetitive and basic it can be. And it starts to hurt my chest a little bit because the pressure of being hit that many times over and over again with a blunt force object is traumatic. But this issue was a celebration of what makes these characters enjoyable. And yeah, that description is so real because it's real. It's
Okay.
real.
I immediately thought of when you said that, I was like, oh, thank God it's not an IKEA instruction book that you...
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's even worse.
If you've never held a Uline catalog, you don't know.
Oh my God. Those are so...
They're like this thick.
If you've never killed a large
Yeah.
bug with a Uline catalog, you don't know.
We don't love housewives.
Well, I think actually, Nathan, I just realized the time. I think we're at that moment where I'm going to say to you, dude, I think it's time to call for some last thoughts.
All right, let's get some last thoughts from everybody. For me, my last thoughts would be, I'm just so glad that she's getting her due. I can't wait to see where the story is going. I can't wait to see why she broke up with Blue Marvel. Because I was like, what? I hope she gets to talk to her gay cousin Caleb a lot more, even though she's going to be in space. I mean, I hope somehow she gets to like call him. I can't wait to see where it's going.
Yeah, I think the thing I was most impressed by with this book was that it managed to work in a really fantastic personal story as well. That was new, that wasn't like a lot of, I will be interested to see what happened with Blue Marvel, but also like, will they, won't they is a beat that we don't need too much of. So I was really impressed with the personal story for her, that it was a family story, that, we also got a gay character, which unfortunately we are still a little bit eating crumbs, where like every time we get a new one, we're like,
Yay!
we must protect him. So, I'm excited that we got both a great like superhero reference and a really great family reference in this first book. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
I'm really excited because I can't think of how to get to the joke, but I really want to make a joke about a ton of pho from the styling of the cover. It's just like, this book has a fucking gang. That's it. That's my time. Go to
Hang has
Jake.
entered the chat.
That's my time, Jake. It's on you.
Yeah, I want to reflect what TK said about getting a really nice family story, getting some character interiority, getting some focus. It's a different thing when you've got a character not in an ensemble book like the Avengers. You get the lens on Monica and what she's doing, what she's thinking, what she's feeling. And I think that that's important for readers. And I think it's important for this character to see her kind of continue to stay relevant and important and front and center. We want to know who she is and what makes her tick. So I'm excited to see more of that.
Yeah, for me, I was picking up a lot of the same. I'm always far more interested in the person than the powers. So I was actually really excited that we got the like big fight and the dun 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 moment in the middle. And then we moved into more personal stuff, which lets me know that this series is going to be more focused on the internal of Monica with the outer shell of she's going to destroy the universe, whatever, something or other. So, yeah, and I'm excited for that. I love that she's getting that opportunity to really like showcase her inner self as well.
I love it.
I love this character. She was one of the two black women leaders of superhero teams in the 80s. And that's something that like I don't think she gets enough credit for. Of course, we always give Storm that credit, but we don't ever give Captain Marvel or Monica Rambeau, Photon, that credit for having been that person.
No, we really don't. And speaking of credit, Tori Sheehan, my partner in crime, my delightful warrior in excellence. It is so tragic that you are only with us for one segment this week, but there are so many amazing opportunities to catch you on this network, like the Billy Club, our continuous examination of all things Daredevil. But where else can they find your incredible self?
They can find me wondering if our two black female leaders ever kissed back when they were both leaders over on Instagram.
Storm would totally do that.
Tori with an I, and on Twitter at Tori_Sheehan.
If anybody is listening and wants to draw that, please draw Storm and Captain Marvel sharing a very dignified, beautiful kiss.
Powerful kiss.
Oh, yeah.
In whatever costumes you want to.
Knock it out.
Well, Tori, thank you so much. And we are about to say goodbye to Tori, one of our favorite correspondents, and switch her out for another favorite correspondent as we switch over titles. So... see you, Tori, and hello, one Mr. Jonah.
Jonah!
I get to see him for a little bit. Hi, Jonah.
Tori, do you just want to hang out for the segment? I mean, you don't have to talk. You can just hang.
Yeah, you can be the point of the character.
No,
She's like, I got work to do.
I don't know either of these. I don't. I think one's a video game. I don't know.
One is a video game. Yes.
All right. Bye, kids.
Bye, Tori.
Bye.
Jonah, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jonah. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at PeakJonah. That's Peak.
Do you hope we survive the experience?
Well, I hope we do. Just like I hope everybody in the Midnight Sun survives experience, because oh boy, we saw a vision and they all died, and there were plenty of characters in that who were dead I did not recognize.
So yeah, we are of course talking about Midnight Suns #4, written by Ethan Sachs with art by Luigi Zagaria, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. We're also going to be talking about Strange Academy #3, written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. I guess let's start with Midnight Suns. I think that one is a little more complicated and is going to need a little more of our time. How you guys feeling about this story?
I'm really into it. I really like how, I mean this with all the love in the world, no stakes it is.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing in this book I believe will affect anything about the Marvel Universe ever, except for the shape of the hearts of the fans that this book impresses and imprints on, such that they will reference this in 20 years. But if you are asking me, and I think that you are, if this book is having any effect on the Marvel Universe, it is having the same effect on the Marvel Universe that my save file of it is having on the Marvel Universe, and that's okay. It can just be fucking fun.
I actually love that you said that, because I do really like this book, but there's something up, and it is exactly
Sorry, my husband got exactly what I was doing. I'm sorry, I was being Jeremy from the pilot of Sports Night, and it just made me so happy that he got it. Sorry.
That's wonderful. What does everybody else think?
So I think the vegetarians are thriving because there's no stakes here. The vampires are thriving because there's no stakes. They don't have to worry about anything. I will say there's a twist in this book that I didn't see coming, but I should have, because in reality TV fashion, they did a flashback and showed us a character that was important to something, and I fully did not expect that was going to actually be important to come back up.
Dave.
You can just spoil it. I mean, like, you know, if you're watching a #4 segment, like,
but you never know. This might be somebody's first venture into the title.
Every issue is the jumping on point, TK.
Oh my God! You take that Jim Shooter shit and you get out of my studio.
Please, for real.
It's more so, I was just so like caught off guard, but I thought about, like, why was I caught off guard? They fully hinted at this possibly being a thing. It was fully, like, outlined for me, and I was still like, what? The betrayal! Overall, I am having a lot of fun. I am enjoying this, but I do have some minor complaints, mostly feeling like a little bit of the dialogue is feeling a bit too repetitive. How many times is Nico going to talk about that she feels like she can't do something without her staff? It just feels a little bearing repeating of, we got it the first time. I thought we resolved this at the end of the last issue. We're still talking about it, okay.
Jake, I feel like you feel that way about somebody else's line throughout this series.
Oh, man. Wolverine is so self-aware in this series. My favorite thing about Wolverine is that every time he opens his mouth, every line that he speaks is dedicated to him reflecting on how he's not even supposed to really be here, and he hates it. And the only thing that he's good for, literally, is sticking a claw into a door lock to open it. It's the only thing he does, and he does it good.
I believe he does
He's
it
the
the
best
best
at-
at
he's
what
the
he
best
does.
at what he does.
Than what he does.
And that's a fun beat, because usually I'm so exhausted by Wolverine's omnipresence in everything. It's nice to see Wolverine be just as exhausted as I am and wonder what the hell he's doing there too.
By
And-
himself.
By himself. It's so that's really what sucked me into this book, was kind of getting that flavor of Wolverine. And I've liked other things along the way too, like Tony Stark, Sorcerer Supreme, who is insufferable.
I
But he
mean,
fits.
if you're coming off of Aaron's Avengers run, there are multiversal everybody's, and so like we've met a bunch of Tony Starks, we've met a bunch of Steve Rogerses. So the idea of a Sorcerer Supreme Tony, we've got an Ant-Man Tony who's just the fucking best.
But
So the
Tony's
idea,
the best Tony ever.
he's
Ever.
the best and the sexiest, and so the idea of a Sorcerer Supreme one, not the craziest thing in the world.
Oh, also Catherine Hahn's appearance in this book.
Oh my
is
God,
really interesting.
That's what I was gonna say. Like this book is fun. Like for what it really is a cash grab on a game that is also trying to bring Catherine Hahnification to Agatha Harkness, the comics Agatha Harkness. It's great, but like if you're just looking at it as a comic, like it's good, it's fun. Like I don't like. Yes, I have things that I would like to be better, Jonah. Like you said, there's a lot of dialogue that's iffy, or like yeah. But beyond that, it's fun. It's good. It's fun. It's nice to see Agatha Harkness become Catherine Hahn in the comics. I was like, okay.
I will say I really enjoy Ethan Sachs' art style on this, or not Ethan Sachs, Luigi Zagaria. For one thing, he has a way of drawing mouths that is really distinct, and it's a little bit cartoony, but also like I want to say like even a little bit like sexy. Like I don't know, it's like kind of like John Romita Jr. mouths, where they're like a little bit weird, but I'm also super into them. And I just think it's like, it's such a distinct style, but it's not house style, but it's really comicsy. It just kind of hits all the notes that I really want. There's also like a little bit of Paul Pope in there.
Yeah.
I see that.
And, I think it works really well for this title. And, he's made some really smart decisions in terms of how to streamline, because he gives everybody a uniform, in the black and red outfits, which also gives us team cohesion. There's just some cool detail work here.
And I think the other thing that this book is that none of us are giving it credit for is it's kind of the magician's light of the Marvel universe.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit bisexual. You never know when somebody's from an alternate reality. You don't know if they're going to break into a musical number, or why Julie is the best character but sucks in season 1. You just mostly want Penny to be okay.
No, I don't. No, I don't want Penny to be
Regardless
okay.
of that,
Which
you
Penny?
stand the female character that doesn't get enough storyline, also known as Margot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
that one, true.
This is basically
Fillery.
midnight fillery. And that is not Julia's fault. But yeah, and then who's the one I find really hot, Kevy? Is it Todd?
Yeah.
Oh,
Todd's the
Lotus.
hottie.
Todd, who was just in White Lotus,
Season 2.
being the world's cutest little rube,
He was
who
in
is maybe great at sex. We'll find out.
Maybe.
So, switching tracks ever so slightly, because there's a bit of a connection between these two books with, the fact that this all revolves around Zoe Laveau, a student at Strange Academy. This all starts at Strange Academy. Meanwhile, over at Strange Academy, we are resolving some hurt and some sadness and some conflicts, and we're also being a bunch of little shits. So what's going on with the kids?
I really actually like this issue because it felt more like the Strange Academy before the finals than the first 2 issues of the finals. It's really cool to see the kids have a rhythm again, get back to things, get back to their normal relationships. I've got to say I love Desi's like demon form.
Yeah,
like, that's like hot as fuck, and I'm like, how are you, Sim's daughter? Because Sim is never as hot as you are right now, but it's good to see. Like, I'm glad they welcomed Calvin back. Like, obviously those kids would, because that's the kind of people they are. And it was good to see him actually stand by them. And fuck, they like a cookbook summoned Joe McGrath. Like, what the hell? Like, it's fun.
Well, okay, that number 1, very hot, but number 2, hear me out. Sim with a beard and a trucker hat as like a piggy bottom. I feel like it could be made to work. I don't appreciate the lack of love I'm getting from the downstairs.
It's so
crew.
Roadhog. It's so Roadhog.
I could live with that.
Okay, but if Rob Reyes drew that, okay, I could see
Yeah, exactly.
Good
If like Phil Jimenez drew it, it would just be underwear models. So I thought this was a good book. I thought this was a good issue. I really was not as big a fan of the first 2 issues of this mini. They were needlessly bummers. That wasn't my kids. So I didn't need the Buffy season 6ification of Strange Academy. And I really appreciate that we are rebounding into season 7 with a get it done kind of early. I'm a big season 7 defender, so, deal with it. And I'm pretty happy with this issue. That's a really good way to put it. I'm happy with this issue.
What about the bottom 2? What do you guys... You feeling it?
Yeah, spider bottoms. Because before we did Spider Verse, and so now it's it was a joke.
Well, who's
Gonna
the
go
spider
off.
top?
Please go off.
Speaking of spider tops, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I have to echo the same sentiment. The first 2 issues I don't think were necessarily bad, but we're kind of reading this title, and where I think a lot of the enjoyment comes out of is seeing the relationship of these kids, and it's similar to what I think a lot of comic fans fell in love with the idea of New Mutants, where we saw these kids growing up and them learning how to use their abilities and the different relationships that form between all of them. And when the first 2 felt like drama that didn't, it felt in a way scripted reality drama. It felt a little forced, and I don't know if it really meshed as well with the cast of characters that we grew to fall in love with, whereas this issue feels a little bit closer to a return to form of what we're kind of used to seeing them in their roles, but it feels nicer. It feels like they're kind of finding their footing again of being friends and finding that camaraderie that I think we've come to enjoy. So it was really appreciative that we're kind of returning a little bit back to what I think we fell in love with the book for in this issue.
Yeah, it's interesting how this particular issue really seems to work on wrapping up and addressing plot threads that were kind of like left by the wayside in order to do the Emily turns really bad thing. Like the council addresses some of the things from the earlier parts of the Strange Academy arc that never really got fully wrapped up. So we know that there's still stuff happening there. I really loved the way the fair kind of everyone's saying return to form, and it is such a great return to form in that sort of like, this is a high school team of super people, so they have to have normalizing things to balance out their super things, and a fundraising fair makes a lot of sense for that and feels good. I also really, I don't know if I was like getting a vibe between Calvin and Alvy, but I felt something. I was like, they're very close and feel a little flirty right now. What's going on there? I'd love to see that develop. Calvin deserves love. So hoping for that. Also, Desi's new look, Nathan, I agree with you. Totally nuts. And I don't know if anyone else felt like it kind of looked like the Darkchild form that
It
Ilyana
did.
takes.
Oh my god.
Totally.
And I want to see. It doesn't have like it can be like an artistic addressing of that, but I think there could be something really cool about this idea that when you live under Sim, like that's just kind of the evil form you take when you go bad.
Oh no, we never did learn out who her mother was, did we?
No, I mean like.
Oh wow, yeah.
I think it goes to show what kind of demonic influence these parental figures can really have on characters like Magic and characters like Desi, and how they have a lot they could talk about and like go off girl.
I'll say one of the best rooms that I was ever in for this show was Raven talking about Calvin being a child in the foster and adoption system, and how that kind of affected how he presented himself at Strange Academy. And it has really affected my view of the character all the way through. I mean, that was like almost a year ago, and we're kind of finally resolving that storyline. And the thing I love about Strange Academy is that they will just happily resolve it. Like, it's just like, hey, we're all friends. And like, we went and got Calvin back, and like, we don't even see a ton of what happened with them getting Calvin back.
No, they just do it.
They just do it, and we cut to the fair, and they're like, we're just happy to have you back. And, the part of this issue is a confrontation with the thing that, partially made Calvin bad, and it's over really quick, and it's just a no, and they're friends again. And like, I love that this book will drag out dramatic plots in ways that are very tragic, but when it wants to resolve them, it's okay just being like, hey, we're friends again. That's just fine.
Well, and I
Calvin's
think
gonna try hard.
Yeah.
because this book is about forgiveness. That's really the heart of this book in so many ways. It's about the learning experience, but it's about the learning experience through living a life of forgiveness. None of these characters come here absolved of any sin. Even the characters that have no backstory ultimately have a complex backstory, each featuring something they're embarrassed about. But it's in finding forgiveness for each other that they're able to learn forgiveness for themselves. It's kind of a moralistic tale, but it's a moralistic tale in terms of a coming-of-age narrative experience, which is something that I think Marvel used to trade on as Hallmark. The coming-of-age experience is the definition of Spider-Man. In so many ways, Strange Academy is a Spider-Man book, just with none of the webbing.
Yeah, I really like that read. The idea that you can't account for who your parents are. That's just dumb luck, one way or the other. What you can account for is how you move through the world and the decisions that you make, and letting yourself just grow from the experience, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And that's what all these kids are doing. And I think Doyle's arc particularly has been, I was fully like, a Dormammu at Strange Academy, clutch those pearls. But I am fully on Team Doyle. I think he's rad. I want to be his friend. That's what it's like. And I don't want to be friends with anyone. So not true. I want to be friends with everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to be friends with literally everybody.
Yeah,
he would be such a good Sorcerer Supreme.
And he'd have such a lovely, passionate, fiery heart about it.
And ultimately, that this is about forgiveness is good, because we're going to need it for Emily, who took the dark path to the darkest place it could go. Unfortunately, I feel like a little bit of this is turned into she's possessed or something, but
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit something not
Yeah.
She
quite
read the
right.
Darkhold, and she's going through it.
that old classic.
She's got a Dormammu arm. He's probably in her brain.
Exactly.
I really love how you say Dormammu. I
love
say
it.
Dormammu,
Dormammu.
but the way you say
Dormammu is even
Dormammu, I genuinely think it's
I love
great.
it.
He's wearing a Dormammu.
Dormammu, he's just in a nightie.
Yeah, because I say it like Dormammu, but you say it like Dormumu, and that's where it's at.
I think they say Dormammu in the movies, but
The movie.
Dormammu is just it's just how I say it.
You do.
I love it.
Doyle
Don't let anybody tell
Dormammu.
you.
That's when he came to the United States. That's just how when they stamped his thing at Ellis Island. That's how they said it, and that's how it got cemented.
It's been Americanized.
And if he was Italian, it would have originally been Dimamu.
Hey, you know what? Don't ever let anybody mess with you because I called Captain Britain Captain Britain for like the longest time. Like,
Oh my god, we all have those. That's being a kid reading comics. That's just part of the.
Yeah.
But I want to get everybody's last thoughts, about both books, about this kind of like semi-low stakes slice of Marvel Magic world. Marvel Magic is always going to be such an important thing. But I think we typically see the big things happen in like Strange and books associated with Doctor Strange. And so like these two are really fun because the stakes are a little bit different, if not lower at times. And I just want to know what y'all think.
I gotta say for Strange Academy, I was so glad to see the story go back to where it was, like lighthearted a little bit. We got to see a lot more of the humor. It wasn't just like dark, heavy, like grunge Strange Academy. For Midnight Suns, the big thing is that splash page at the end with all the dead people. I was like, Talisman's in that, she's in that, and I was like, why isn't Talisman in this run? And then I was like, why isn't she in the game too? And then like it got me depressed. But then I'm like, okay, at least somebody remembers Talisman exists. So then I was happy.
There's
Her
always
biggest
time for
mistake was being part of
DLC.
I was
Alpha
gonna say
Flight.
season pass. Season pass.
More Alpha Flight weirdness. Sorry.
And if I had a final thought on either of these, it's that they're tailor-made for the download experience. That's something that I as much as I love comic books, there's very few things I love quite as much as comic books, but one of them is game shows. And something I love about a really good game show is when any segment lifts out beautifully. And that's part of the commercial viability and the viral effectiveness of game shows. When you can just lift that segment out and anybody can jump in on the win, the loss, the excitement, the production, the light, the sound, the design. It's about creating an entire microcosmic experience in 3 minutes. And these books forego some of the bound to the rest of the Marvel Universe to be kind of like a game show segment, kind of like watching Plinko in Price is Right. It's 3 minutes, it's quick, it's really enjoyable, it looks really good. And then George is going to say, Alyssa, why can't I think of her last name now?
Wong?
No, I think she's an idiot.
Milano?
No, she's an idiot. From Drag Race.
Edward.
Alyssa Edwards.
dare
Yeah.
you.
Alyssa Edwards, come on down, right?
Okay,
There
Alyssa,
you go.
No, hold on a second, baby.
Yeah. Jacob, as you give your last thoughts, give your sign off as well, because you are leaving us after this segment.
Well, my last thoughts are, honestly, it's a lot of fun getting more attention on the magic corners of the Marvel Universe. Nico, I really loved your thoughts on game shows as creating this microcosm. I thought that was such a good, so tight, because that really does apply here. These are just sort of stories that are happening in their own little situation, and we're here to consume them and enjoy them and, see the connective tissue through them. And they're doing a good job. They're doing a great job. I'm looking at it right here. That's why I'm continuing to look this way. But, yeah, so I'm especially here for the Strange Academy ride, but I'm also starting to play the Midnight Suns game, so the tie-in potential for this is really cute, and I don't hate it. You got me, Marvel. So signing off, this is me, Jake. I am at Omega Sentinel on Twitter or the Heart Farmer on Instagram. Yeah, I forget my own handle. It's right in front of me too, so there we go. Have a great night, everyone.
Then Jojo, your thoughts.
My head is not empty. There are thoughts in there. I mostly really enjoy Midnight Suns because, as we keep talking about, they're pretending like it's this big world-ending disaster. But there are. It is not in the slightest.
Nothing's gonna happen.
It is very funny how much that everybody seems in on the act that it's really important and big, but it's really not. And I like the costume design. I think the red and black looks sexy. I like the way everybody looks. I would just appreciate, and I'm not even looking for everybody to have these deep character moments. I'm not going for Oscar-winning performances by everybody, but I would appreciate maybe a little bit more paying attention of, okay, not everybody needs to have one character trait. Everybody could be just slightly a little more well-rounded. And I would appreciate maybe a little bit more variation in how each character is approaching the situation, as opposed to, I'm sad. I want to do magic. I can't do magic without my staff. Stabby, stabby, claw. I'm a vampire.
She also gets flirty with Yana. So.
Oh my god, it's so hot. That's what I meant by magiciansification.
Yeah.
I want them to go on like a double date. It could be Nico, Carolina, Magic, and Kate, and they could all just go on a double date and be.
That sounds like a disaster,
WLWs.
and I'm
It's
here
a
for
quad.
Every date with me is magic. Hey, what's up? I'm Nico.
That's Ileana's dating profile.
Kate
That's
Pride or
what she-
Katie Powers?
Kate Pride.
Okay,
No, five now.
because
Yeah, that's gotta be
Powers
Katie
is
Powers.
in the Carolina.
Julie Powers.
Julie,
Powers.
yeah, Julie
Julie
Powers.
Yeah.
Katie's the young one. Katie's the
Is
young
that,
one.
is
she can
that
still
one of the
be
Power
Kate.
Kids?
All
Yeah.
right.
Power Kids? Oh.
Yeah, Julie
Okay.
Powers. Thank you, Julie Powers.
Rather than discussing amazing Marvel lesbians, I think we're gonna go to a break and then come back and talk about some Marvel horror and magic ring things. Commercial
It
time.
was Agatha all along.
It is commercial time.
Thanks, everyone.
I love that at night graphic. The night and the moonscape and outfit change number 4. Okay. TK, take us home.
That's such an appropriate outfit change though. Because we are, of course, here to talk about Ghost Rider. We're also here to talk about Shang-Chi. Ghost Rider written by Benjamin Percy with pencils by Corey Smith, inks by Oren Jr., colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And then, of course, Shang-Chi is Jinlin Yang, Marcus Toe on pencils and inks, Eric Arciniega on colors, and letters by Travis Lanham again. 2 stories. It's interesting the mix of like ongoings and minis that we have going on right now and where things are in terms of like these are 2 stories that both have announced that they are coming towards their end. And I'm curious what you guys are feeling about both, as Ghost Rider is going to come to some conclusion, but then go on and do more story. And we're coming to really the end for the foreseeable future of Shang-Chi. What do we think?
So, I did some numbers because that's what I do.
Yeah,
I
you
do
do.
numbers. I love fucking numbers, man. And the first Shang-Chi issue by Gene, and nice job there, Nico. The first Shang-Chi issue by Gene Luen Yang was way back in November of 2020. We ran 5 issues. Then we got that one shot, The Legend of Shang-Chi, which filled out the schedule a little bit. There was the 4-issue Infinity comic that took us all through September. We then had the 3 issues of the next volume, the Identity story, issues 4 through 12 of that volume, followed by another Identity story. Then this 6-issue series capped off with Shang-Chi Master of the Ten Rings, and while we are not yet talking about Shang-Chi Master of the Ten Rings, it is confirmed that that is the end of the story. And I don't know. Like, we championed this book from day one. I don't feel like this isn't even a good ending, because, like, having read it all already, I'm just going to say that the final issue really doesn't do a lot more for this volume than this issue does. It's not even unsatisfactory. It's that I don't trust that Marvel is going to keep running the ball with the same authentic voice, the same dexterous care for character. I believe that I just invested a lot of time and energy in what is going to be a beautiful omnibus, and that is the end of the sentence.
I think it's nice that Shang-Chi actually got to have a writer who gave the character a voice that was something different than what he was in the 70s, which was, oftentimes written by people maybe who had the best intentions, but was not the best representation. I think that we've gotten a voice with this character that is consistent and makes sense. Whereas throughout the 90s, whenever I would run into Shang-Chi, he would just be a character who would seem different every time because it was always as a guest shot, like a one shot, like the X-Men go to Hong Kong and there's Shang-Chi. And then it wasn't until recent years till even Gail Simone wrote him that I was like, oh, Shang-Chi could actually be a really cool character. And then, obviously Shang-Chi got a lot more mainstream acceptance with the movie, and we got to see a lot better of a version of him. It's sad to see it coming to an end, and I get you that it's maybe not a satisfying conclusion to this arc in the story.
I concur. I'm not. This issue wasn't even bad. I do think towards the end it got a little, and this character is here, and this character. It felt like, oh, we have to tie up these ends somehow, so it did feel a little mishmashed of dogpile of throwing all these characters way at the end to just kind of tie things up where they could, which I know it happens. You only have so much time. My more so disappointment comes from, I don't really know if Marvel has a lot of Asian characters leading titles, leading books, and Shang-Chi did a lot of great things, especially under the pen of Gene, that I really am a little disappointed that we're not getting more right now. And it is a little bit of a, you're making him into a cool character, and I like these stories, and I kind of want to see these situations continue. I mean, especially if I get more of his siblings.
Hello.
I will say it was a notable
become a
absence that the siblings weren't here.
Well, the good news is we will get a chance to talk about the siblings next month when we go over Master of the Ten Rings. But as for this final issue of And the Ten Rings, in general, what did you think of the setup of, this contest?
It's tough because I recognize the other stories that have done this as appropriation of these ideas from Asian culture because they're even used in stories that feature Asian inspired characters. The problem isn't that the 6 issues of And the Ten Rings aren't terrific. The problem is that the 9 or 10 issues of Iron Fist and the 7 Capital Cities of Heaven are fantastic and beautiful and feature a number of breathtaking Asian characters who are unfortunately not written by Asian voices, which is disheartening, though a number of those characters do show up here. So the setup, good. The execution, good. It just wasn't given the room that a book was 10, 15 years ago to kind of find who it was going to be. Like, I can't even imagine the number of books that could exist now if they were given that kind of time.
It felt almost like no stakes because like you knew Shang-Chi was going to come out.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is how you get there. But it was maybe rushed. I don't know if like maybe you didn't have the room to breathe. And at times I was kind of like, wait, why are they talking about all these rings so much? Is this the Lord of the Rings? Like, is this precious? Like, oh my God. But yeah.
Am I in the Diamond District right now?
But yeah, it was it was fine, but it just wasn't a super compelling fresh in notes for this dynasty that he's created for Shang-Chi.
I think I have to agree. I like the idea of Shang-Chi kind of being tested about the rings, talking about everything. I think the idea of him and his morality being at odds with what the rings stand for, I think that part of the story was really a lot more compelling than the actual tournament. I don't know if the tournament was the best setting to talk about this kind of situation, but I don't know what the best way to talk about, Shang-Chi's conflict with using the rings. It's too much power. He feels like it's, going against what he wants to achieve, his own moral standards and codes and guidelines that he follows. So it's not, and I'm not going to call it bad. I enjoyed what I read, but I don't know if it's the most original idea for an idea of a test. I think if maybe there was a variation of this idea of a test and it pushed the boundaries of what are we defining as this test, I think that maybe would have been a little bit more exciting and a little bit more fresher, especially if this was going to be some of the last stuff we're getting of Shang-Chi for a little while.
And if it wasn't that I feel like Shang-Chi is so capable, like, and this is another one. I feel like this might as well have been an episode that we called 7 issues of comic books that are secretly about characters that are in movies and TV shows. But Shang-Chi is like just a completely unrelated character to the film franchise in a way that they're not really worried about, right? This Shang-Chi is a little bit more 36 and weathered by life, whereas Simu's Shang-Chi is so young and like beautiful in the character's history. He's like 24 and he hasn't experienced the hardships that are gonna break him the way he's broken now, and like they're not worried about lining those two characters up. They don't want them to be the same. But something I was thinking about that, and it fits this, but guys, we're getting dangerously close to where Captain America's 100 years old. Like, we're getting radically close to either Magneto is not a Holocaust survivor or Xavier is like 100 as well. And like, we're getting dangerously close to some precipice that will affect the way stories are handled in the Marvel Universe.
Yep.
And Shang-Chi being decidedly ahead of the youthful joyousness of his youthful character is allowing us to transform dynamically that expectation.
This Shang-Chi's got a little bit of like divorced dad energy, and I like that.
Yes.
He's like,
Yes.
throwing himself into a new hobby, trying to, when he moved into his new apartment, trying to find some new friends. It's
Gets
a vibe
really
that I
into
enjoy.
gaming.
Yep.
Yeah, that's his new hobby. He's trying to connect with his kids.
The opposite of Cyclops now, who's like 40-year-old dad who's trying to like eat a sandwich with his kids.
I Among Us. I am dad and I Among Us.
That's sussy. Damn.
That's so sussy.
That's sussy. He's like.
Meanwhile, the one character in this whole thing who is maybe not getting a TV show anytime soon, Mr. Johnny Blaze, which is probably for the best.
Although Nick Cage's Ghost Rider movies, beautiful.
They were good. I don't think Marvel's super worried about associating those with this comic.
No.
They're not hot garbage. Like, I love that they get on a lot of those lists because then I think it gets people to watch them.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not trying to be like, get people on the internet angry, but you can't tell me that X-Men Apocalypse is a better film than Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
They're just literally of the same ilk, and I maybe even think it's a little mean to say that about Ghost Rider.
It is.
I don't care for
Apocalypse was
X-Men
shit.
Apocalypse. Yeah, that's not my movie. But
I maintain that people just don't enjoy camp and don't understand camp.
Exactly.
I feel like that's actually the magic of this Ghost Rider, though.
Yes.
It's like there was this TV show in the 90s, and I'm either about to get a lot of whats or a lot of floods, but there was a TV show in the 90s called Forever Night, and Forever Night was about a detective vampire. And his hot lady, she was like 90s hot lady, like medical, like love interest who he could never be with, and his cruel father figure who was a vampire. And the actual series finale is so fucked up. In the final season, they think they found a way that a vampire can like cure their vampirism by slowly draining the blood of a human if there's like an intense emotional connection, but you have to do it just right. And in the end, Nick doesn't do it just right, and he kills his love interest. So then his father figure has to execute him so he doesn't have to live with himself. And that's the end of the show. It's wild. But anyway, this has Big That vibes.
How does this have Big That vibes?
This is more like Friday the 13th TV series.
Oh man, they were in a block together. Nathan, you're killing me so good. No, it's like 90s buddy cop. It's dark, hot lead. That's the fucking show. Kevo is the hero.
Yep.
Meet Detective Nick Knight.
Yep.
When the sun goes down, so does the crime rate. Forever Night. And so then, wait, Kevy, can you circle the scary-looking albino-ish man? In the background, yeah, that one. He's the unforgiving Lee, the no, I hate you. And then that lady in the middle, in the purple, she's the love interest. Yeah, her, exactly. And this was Forever Night. It was the campiest show in the world. Nathan, if you've never watched this, I think you would genuinely love it. If you are someone who thinks Dark Angel, starring Jessica Alba, is dystopian cinematic pop schlock masterpiece, then Forever Night is the show for you.
Okay, we have gotten so far off the topic of Ghost Rider.
Good, because I was going to almost talk about Baywatch Nights, so good, go for it.
Yes, anytime you want.
Except for literally right now when we're talking about Ghost Rider. I don't even know at this point. This book really, I love it. I think it is so gorgeous. I think it is like horror perfection. It really surprises me that this is an ongoing, that this is like, they're like, to be concluded, but don't worry because we are setting up the next Ghost Rider story. Meanwhile, Clea Strange can't get a full like 12 issues.
It's devastating in the I very much agree. It's because the hard part for me is that I've invested in this from the beginning with you. Like, I think I actually was like, hey, we should do this. And you were like, sure. Not that you were ever like, no, but I don't think we knew.
I didn't think it was going to get past issue 2. I thought it was going to be one of those ones where they just like quietly cancel it. Like it sells 2 issues and they quietly cancel it. I wasn't against doing it. I was just like, Nico, I don't think this is gonna. I think we're gonna tell people we're covering this book, and then they're gonna wonder what happened 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I was confused because this is the first one I've read. So I was jumping in at a point. I was like, okay, but the thing it's so weird when a city you're so familiar with shows up in a comic, right?
Is this your Chicago?
Yeah. So Chicago, and this is not my Chicago because this Chicago is weird and doesn't exist in this way. Like the L train tunnels they went into are clearly modeled off of a certain streets, one State Street. So they like went into the State Street ones, and there's traffic outside. But they go into the subway, and there's like nobody in the tunnel except for that demon guy. I don't know what he was. Was he a demon guy who got hit by the train?
We don't really know. That's just like that's what makes it such a horror comic book. Is it just has these moments where it's like, oh, and then there's a guy who's cutting out all his teeth who tries to stab you.
Yeah,
that was a little random. You know,
yeah.
It's genius.
She's so
random.
random.
Oh, I know who that was. The Tooth Fairy. They met the Tooth Fairy, and the Tooth Fairy splattered. I loved that the Ghost Rider turned a train into his ride.
Brilliant.
That was pretty amazing. And now that I think that just opens up the idea for so much creativity and fan art for people to be like, what constitutes a vehicle? Oh, what does this look like if it's under the Hellfire visage, if you will?
It actually turns out that the All Rider is so powerful that he can drive a symbiote.
I mean, he can drive a Celestial, so I think that's like a little bit more.
I don't know. He drove the symbiote right off of the Black Skull. He was just like, "What is the symbiote but a mode of transportation? And what am I? I'm a chauffeur." And like, just blew the symbiote off the boy. It was amazing.
And I think that's what makes this book so interesting is that like we have these omniversal Avengers that are being touted as like these are the pillars of superhero-dom and Avengerdom, and like the All Rider can do anything. And here we have the original Ghost Rider doing very original Ghost Rider stuff. And maybe it's unfortunate that we don't get more of that for the other characters. I think it's working really well for like Ben Percy and us as readers, but I remain unsure about where Johnny Blaze is going, and that's kind of my final comment. I'd love to get yours about this book, where it could be going next, and then, you know, of course, Shang-Chi. I did just kind of want to talk about a little bit this final issue of the series, but I think we're really going to get into it when we talk about Master of the Ten Rings, and we kind of really eulogize the end of Shang-Chi's time.
You know, I just really feel like Ghost Rider has been an exciting ride. Talia has taken a very long time to come into her own, but she is such a terrific character. She's beautiful. She's a model. She looks like an undead Linda Evangelista.
That's all correct.
She is a goth queen. She's
Callisto. Come on. Just
yes.
Beautiful model Callisto.
Yeah, I think she's the standout of this book, and I really hope to see Ben Percy and women, specifically women, who know this craft and know this genre get to finally show off their skills on characters like her while getting to create their own.
This is a very Ben Percy book. It like eats, drinks, breathes Ben Percy. Yeah. Like if it were set in the wilderness, I would be afraid it was Wolverine. But Talia's great. Ben Percy has this great thing about creating some side characters that I end up loving a lot more than the main character of the book. Like Louise and Wolverine, I'm like, where the hell is she? She needs to come back. But like, you know, it's cool. It's interesting. I'm excited to see where this turns out, and it's actually the first time I've been excited to read a Blackheart story, which is like never. So yay.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm having a real good old time with Ghost Rider. This is my first time ever reading Johnny Blaze, and I will say I'm enjoying this. He really hasn't eclipsed my enjoyment and love for Robbie, so I'm still enjoying this. And there's really, this is probably some of my favorite work that I'm reading from Ben Percy. So I'm really like appreciative of like, he like really, I think, understands the genre of where Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider excels tremendously. And I'm really just, I'm enjoying this ride, and I'm enjoying what I'm reading, though. This is a little I guess my one complaint would be like, and now we're fighting these demons, and then there's a bunch of demons here, and then random unhoused guy who's trying to steal my teeth. I don't. It's a little lot going on. But I thought this issue was pretty stellar, and I'm only just sad that this is, for now, what seems like we're saying goodbye to Shang-Chi, and just kind of waiting for when we get to see him again.
Well, gentlemen and listeners, all of our amazing fans, it is so great that you have stuck with us these 2+ hours. It's Kevo.
Hi, Kevo. You want to talk about Ghost Rider?
No, I'm good.
He's a dude on a flaming motorcycle or
Train.
Or train or anything, from my understanding.
Anything.
We could talk about the weird picture of Dr. Crusher as Ghost Rider that I saw going around again, that keeps going around, and I'm like, that's a horrible joke.
I get it now. It took me a second. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, no, I saw your background. I like it. No. And you were wrapping up. I heard. I clicked myself by accident, but I'm here for the outro, I guess.
Yeah, hang out. Wrap up, Nico.
All right. Well, as always, we love making this show for you multiple times a week, every week. We love this live shit. It's amazing. And I would love to get sign-offs from everybody. And on your way out the door, just tell us how damn cool you thought the books we talked about, what your favorite book was, right? You can find me at Nico Action. That's NicoAction. And my favorite book that we talked about today was probably Midnight Suns 4.
I'm Nathan. You can find me at Desler AOA, and I think my favorite book has to have been Monica Rambeau Photon.
I'm TK. You can find me at XNateXGrayX, and I'm going to give it to Strange Academy.
And I'm Jonah. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at PeakJonah. And my favorite book this week was probably Ghost Rider.
Nice. Well, you can find out all about the show at xsforpodcast.com and at Hubs Plus Network on YouTube, where you can find more amazing content from so many of the brilliant voices on this channel. Plus, absolutely everybody you saw today can be found in the amazing archive for X's for Podcast Live. And until next time, keep those mutant lights lit, those Krakoan gateways open. Remember, on some level, it's always kind of a Spider-Girl world, right? But otherwise, stay tuned when we come back for an all X-Men episode next Sunday with an X's for Podcast Live. Oh,